like to call the HR meeting to order promptly at 1:30. Roll call, please.
Kokendorfer? Bowman?
Here.
Middleton?
Here.
Weipert?
Here.
Spiz?
Present.
Zach?
Here.
Hoffman?
Here, present. We have a quorum. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes of our previous meeting of September 28th. Moved by Commissioner Middleton, supported by Commissioner Weipert. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Our agenda today, are there any additions or corrections or deletions? Hearing none. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Spiz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there anybody here today for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move right along to the first item. 52nd 3rd District Court, Rochester Hills, fiscal year 2018 Michigan Drug Court Grant Program Acceptance. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning. Afternoon. Moved by Commissioner Weipert, supported by Commissioner Middleton. Go ahead.
My name is Tom Fuentes. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator for 52-3 District Court in Rochester Hills.
Deanne Bukhari, Probation Supervisor, 52-3 District Court, Rochester.
Frank Russell, Human Resources.
We're here to respectfully request the acceptance of our SCAO, State Court Administrative Office grant of $95,000 for our drug court program. Specifically, we're requesting the creation of a full-time probation officer position and the cancellation of the part-time position that we had with last year's grant.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, I have one. This is to Philip. Oh, go ahead, Phil.
This is the largest grant you guys got in a while from the SAO?
That's
Ever.
correct. Yep.
Ever.
Deanne wrote the grant. This is the largest one 52-3 has ever seen.
And
Thank you.
we're increasing the part-time, we can now have a full-time position to handle all the probation cases?
That's correct. We're actually going to use the same probation officer we used in the part-time position. She's fabulous, so we're going to keep her on and put her on full-time.
Okay, I'm good. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Kokendorfer?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Middleton?
Yes.
Weipert?
Yes.
Spiz?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank
The next
you.
item is miscellaneous resolution 17290. The Circuit Court approve the creation of one additional Circuit Court judgeship effective January 1st, 2019. Moved by Commissioner Spiz, supported by Commissioner Bowman.
Good morning.
Good morning, afternoon.
I feel like my worlds are colliding. So I'm down here not as a court administrator, but as representing one of the judges on the circuit court bench. But Kevin and I are here today. I know you've got our packet. I know you've got our information. We're here seeking approval of one seat that was authorized previously by the legislation, with the recommendation of State Court Administrator's Office. I'll let Kevin kind of make a few comments, but we're here to answer your questions. We know this is an important issue.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for placing this item on your agenda. We appreciate it. As Judge Langton said, the resolution before you, if approved, would authorize a new judgeship. For those who may not know, Michigan law requires that if a new judgeship is to be created in a court, two approvals are necessary. There has to be authorizing legislation, and the funding unit of that particular court must approve. You are our funding unit, so it requires Board of Commissioners approval. The authorizing legislation has already been passed. It calls for a new circuit judgeship effective January 1, 2019. Our intent, if the resolution is adopted, is to assign the judgeship to the Family Division. We have basically three dockets in our court. We have a docket that is associated with family division cases. Judge Langton happens to have that particular docket, and she hears things like neglect proceedings, juvenile delinquency proceedings, divorces, and everything associated with a divorce case like custody, parenting time, support, adoptions, and various other things. The second docket type we have in our court is a general civil/criminal docket. 11 judges on our bench are assigned to that docket. And then our third docket is a business court / criminal docket, and 2 of our judges are assigned to that docket. I forgot to mention that 6 of our judges are assigned to the family docket.
Thanks.
So we would assign this judgeship, if approved, to the family court. When we run the numbers when we utilize the formula that was utilized by SCAO, the State Court Administrative Office, it yields a need of 7, just over 7 judges. We have 6 in that docket now. So we're hoping that the board will support this. We do have county executive support, and for that we're appreciative. And lastly, we wanted to let you know too that our intent, our bench's intent, and they've already instructed me to find money because we want to make this cost neutral to the county. The cost is estimated at about $364,000. It's probably closer to about $370,000 when you add in some computers and telephones. The judge's salary is paid for fully by the state, but the bulk of the cost would be for the 4 support personnel. And but we intend to cut our budget elsewhere to make sure that it's cost neutral to the county. And with that, I want to thank Judge Langton. She's got a busy docket, but she willingly came down today. I asked her if she would be willing to come down and help with some questions. If you have questions about particular docket matters or some of the things that judges have to do, she's got a wealth of information and knowledge about that subject. So thank you for that, Judge. And we would gladly entertain any questions that you have.
Commissioner Middleton, you have a question?
Yeah, the state court doesn't dictate where you put this, Judge. It's just they evaluated the total load of the county,
Right.
and come up with that we needed another judge. Is that what?
Well, let me just sort of, they issue a report every odd-numbered year. And in the last several reports, we have been showing as needing 2 or more judges. We're not in this report, in the current report that was issued in 2017, but that's only because SCAO says that they're only including courts where the judicial need is greater than 1 judge. And so we could be needing 0.99 judges, and we wouldn't have made their report. They have encouraged us to request this judgeship and see if the commissioners would approve it. But I just want to make sure that the record is straight.
Yeah.
We're-
Yeah.
Okay, well, Judge, when we started into the recession, we were going to get another judge.
Actually, 2 were on there, yeah.
And we asked to not take a judge. So that was just part of the procedure. We, as the funding unit, declined, and then that's the way
Right.
how that went away. Okay.
We actually, too, I'm sure you, most of the commissioners will remember that not only did we not add the 2, but we reduced 1 when Judge McDonald left for a period of 4 years to save the costs for that when he retired. We didn't replace that position for 4 years. So, I mean, we're trying to work within the county's budget.
But we've been using a visiting judge.
So we just got that visiting judge, and that's helping us out with our personal protection orders. It's a part-time visiting judge. That would be a position that we would delete if this new judge was approved and started. So we would not continue that personal protection order judge. We would assimilate those cases back into our docket. So.
But he will stay until January 1st of 19.
Yes,
19,
and it's actually 2 judges. We couldn't find 1 judge that wanted to
spend that much time.
work, that much time. So 1 judge works 1 month, and then another judge works another month. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Kokendorfer?
Sure. Well, I appreciate the presentation and also
Yep.
the thorough documentation. I think
Yeah.
that was very helpful.
Yeah.
I assume that the document that's experiencing the most stress these days is the family court. That's why you're
Right.
requesting it, correct?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Most of my time is spent in the business court these days as an
Yeah.
attorney. I'm just curious, what does that docket look like? Is there any stress or pressure points at all there?
In the business docket? So I think they've, about a year ago, they made a request and added an additional staff attorney for their docket, which everyone supported that request. But I think it's time intensive for a period of time, and I think we're uncertain whether they will need more resources, which is another reason why we're trying not to take another position. We took 1 position from general civil and moved it to family, but it's another reason because SCAO right now is saying we may need 2 judges in business court or we may need 4 judges in business court. So uncertain yet, but it's a possibility that they will seek more resources, and that's why we're not trying to take them more from general civil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Wyper.
We have the space available.
We have 24 judges, or 23 judges in this building and 24 courtrooms, so we don't anticipate that to be a problem.
So we need to hire a few more.
Well, hopefully, not for a while.
Yeah, Commissioner Wyper, go
We're
ahead.
gonna, a structural change of the budget, but we have a whole year. to plan for
Yes,
that.
yes.
And that's, it's gonna be.
Correct.
a year
I
now.
mean, the reason we're coming in early now is because if the seat is approved, then someone has to run for it. So it takes, they have until, I think, if I can remember from my days, I think they have until April 1st to submit their petitions to seek signatures. So our hope would be that we could announce a seat, if it's approved, by towards the end of the year so that people would have an opportunity to get the 5,000 plus petitions they need to run for the seat.
Is e-filing helping on that? I know family court has a lot of info per the e-filing hasn't.
All of our DO cases, so all of our divorce without kids, are through our e-filing system. The state, as you know, is coming up with their own e-filing system, which is why we haven't been able to expand ours to other cases, because we were right on the verge of wanting to expand to our DM cases. And although that will help with, I think it'll speed up some processing of orders and those types of things, it doesn't speed up when we can get hearings set. So, I mean, that's what we're struggling with right now. But it certainly has improved our system. I think it's more efficient for our litigants. They can serve through the e-filing system. They don't have to pay a process server and those types of things. So it does, I think it's a really cost-efficient way to get things done. So it's definitely an improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zach.
So I want to thank Kevin Offner for meeting with some of the other commissioners to understand the numbers. And I did take the opportunity to read the SCAO reports and look at the weighting and learning about this. So I was struggling about whether to vote yes or not. And I totally agree that we need to have a 7th judge assigned to family court on behalf of the residents in Oakland County. There's no question in that. I was just looking at how do we achieve that 7th judge. And previously probate offering services and looking at some of the, administrative things that we can do. One of the things that I learned, and I'm going to go on record, is that looking at the SCAO report, and we are responsible for the 52nd District Courts, and it is concurrent funding units, is that they are projecting almost 2 judges over what the need is there. And that's significant. Remember, we're paying for their operations. So I'm hoping that as we, particularly over the next year or so, that maybe we can get some cooperation from those judges to help us with PPOs or some other things. Initially, they stepped up to the plate a couple years ago when they felt in danger of losing their position, and now they're not helping circuit court. But our need, especially in PPOs and family, I'm hoping, go on record, that we can have a cooperative spirit on behalf of the residents in Oakland County. So with that, I have decided to support this.
Thank you. Very well said.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bowman.
I need to make a couple of statements and ask a couple
Sure.
of questions. And so the first statement, I need to first and foremost disclose that I am intimately contacted with this particular initiative as a result of my father serving on the circuit bench, and so I want to make that known and publicly knowledgeable. And spent quite a bit of time interviewing a number of the judges to get a litmus test and a determination on the caseload. My initial inquiry relates to the status of the chief judge for the circuit court, and the knowledge that that is an ongoing process in terms of selecting who the next chief judge for the circuit court is. My inquiry is whether or not this particular individual, this chief judge, has any delegation responsibilities related to course loads and/or cases?
Well, the chief judge rule, there's a chief judge rule, and it indicates that the chief judge can delegate certain numbers of judges to serve in certain divisions based upon caseload. So yes, they do have that authority and responsibility, and it's one of the reasons why when we got the new seat back from Judge McDonald, when that seat was returned after 4 years, we put that seat not in general civil but in family, because that's where the need was based upon our workload. So yes, they do have authority, and that's under the chief judge rule.
And I understand that the current visiting judge is responsible or slated to take on the PPO caseload.
Just the non-domestics, just to be clear. So it's not any personal protection order that would be associated with one of our domestic cases, whether it's a divorce or custody or support case. Any of those cases associated with the current case we have is assigned to us, so we make sure we're following the spirit of the family division plan, which is one judge, one family. So,
One way to think of non-domestic is PPOs are neighborhood disputes.
right.
Yeah.
So looking at the data and the statistics that have been facilitated by the SCAO reports, on its face, ultimately, absolutely, there is a rationale and a necessity for the addition of another judge. My concern relates a bit to the timing of the request, and ultimately, it is to be determined who this new chief judge would be. And there hasn't been an additional opportunity to investigate any additional administrative approaches to delegating the cases and/or maybe mitigating those cases before they become a challenge on the particular judge's docket. So that gives me some concern. This is probably the initiative that I've lamented over the most since
Sure.
I've been on the board as a commissioner. But related to the numbers and the facts and the statistics in and of themselves, I would be supportive of this initiative as a result of it being an independent analysis of our courts and our dockets. But I believe that we do have the ability to delegate these cases in a more regimented fashion to make it more amicable for the judges to litigate the matters.
Well, I guess my only comment would be that this was discussed amongst our full bench. So our full bench supported this with studying the numbers and the caseloads and the workload measures and those types of things. So this wasn't just a chief judge making a determination. This was an item that was brought for our full bench for discussion. And I'll also indicate that the family division, like we couldn't really, we can't allocate a certain type of case and just say, okay, judges over in business court, you deal with these judges. The legislation requires, and maybe I'm not understanding your question, so I apologize if I'm not, but the legislation requires that these cases must be heard in the family division by a family division judge. So that was the purpose of the legislation, was to get the cases out of general civil, and so that a murder case doesn't preempt a divorce case. They're both equally important to our community and society. So they wanted to give some emphasis on judges becoming experts in these areas and being able to manage their docket well, and also being able to give priority to cases dealing with kids and families that wouldn't be surpassed by time guidelines in a criminal case or those types of things. So we wouldn't even be able to say, like, let's just give 10% of our divorce cases to every general civil judge. We wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm just clarifying that.
Maybe
but
not in that particular framework. It's more so related to those PPO matters. Those PPO cases, whether it be domestic and or otherwise, if that visiting judge is eliminated, those cases would still have to be addressed and delegated to judges in and of themselves.
Correct.
The family division maintaining their docket, the civil and or criminal docket still being maintained by those judges, in the business division still maintaining their docket. But ultimately, the dispersal of the
PPOs?
remaining matters, PPOs and.
So those are under the Family Division docket.
As well.
They're, I mean, it's specifically stated that those are to be heard by Family Division judges. So we, again, it's not like we didn't explore other options on these cases. And they're very, even though that we say that they're neighborhood disputes, they're still very concerning issues. You know, we're not indicating that they're not. So we're hamstrung a little bit by the legislation to do that, but it's not to say that legislation won't change, and we could take steps to do that as well too. I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not I'm not objecting to it. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Any
sir.
other question?
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Wypert.
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Hokenderfer,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. The next item, Circuit Court Fiscal Year 2018 Michigan Drug Court Grant Program Adult Treatment Court Acceptance. Moved by Commissioner Middleton, supported by Commissioner Spiz. Go ahead, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is David Bilson. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator here. To my left is John Cooper, right here from my office. We're asking the acceptance of the Michigan Drug Court Adult Program. As you know, we have an adult drug court program chaired by Judge Jerabo and Judge Kumar. And just like Rochester, our grant has increased. Because of that, we're able, through a grant fund, are asking that we also add on a technical assistant position that will be fully grant funded. Just a little background, we have about 81 participants right now in the drug court program, dealing with the same issues that you probably read in the newspaper, especially about overdosing and the opioid epidemic. So the technical assistant will aid greatly in helping that out.
Commissioner Middleton.
Is there a program expiring in
Yes.
September? Well,
It did, yes. The Urban Drug Court, we were one of the trial courts that were allowed to do an urban drug court program. It was on a trial basis along with only 3 other counties. And so because of that, that trial program has ended per the state, and what we're doing is combining the 2. So just to be clear, those people that were in that program are not left out to dry to say, okay, goodbye. They're combined with this program. I've already actually moved into the program. We had a very smooth transition with Judge McMillan, who is doing the Urban Drug Court program.
Okay, that was my concern.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Middleton,
Yes.
Wypert.
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Hokenderfer,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The last item, miscellaneous resolution 17282, the County Executive Compliance Office and Parks and Recreation Dedicated Auditing Support Position Creation, pending reconsideration by the full board on October 26th.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dan Stetzel, Executive Officer,
motion.
Oakland County Parks.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, or by Commissioner Zach.
Okay. And Pam Wypert, Compliance Officer, is to my left, and Sarah Cohn from HR is our analyst. The Parks and Recreation Department takes in probably $10 million in sales and receipts on an annual basis, and they're processed by nearly 120 staff members at 90 different sales sites. So we're asking for the creation of a part-time auditor 2 position to assist in having a checks and balance system for Parks and Recreation on a regular basis.
Commissioner Spiz?
Do we audit anything today, or is this the
Very-
Well, we do audit today. We have, in my office, we have, currently now we have 4 auditors, so a couple years ago, with the recession, the office staff was reduced, and before that happened, we did go around and audit all of the impressed cash locations during the summertime, using some
Part-time.
yeah,
season.
part-time seasonal employees. With the reduction in staff, we stopped doing that, and this last year, we went out to parks. We realized that there was a big hole because we weren't doing any audits of the cash handling processes, so we went out to parks and discovered that there was a need to spend more time there. And since we really are covering the entire county, we don't have resources that we can dedicate just to the Parks Department. So with this part-time position, they're basically getting 1,000 hours of auditing, dedicated auditing services every year to look at their, initially at the cash handling processes, and then some other processes as well.
So Parks is paying for the position through the compliance office.
Okay.
Similar to how we do our fiscal services, we have a budget and an accounting person from fiscal services that sits in our office.
Commissioner Middleton?
Yes, and I didn't read my notes real well, but I thought, we've already discussed this. And then I see it's up for reconsideration. Why is it up for reconsideration? We forget to do something the first time through?
I believe that it went to the,
Oh, it was supposed to be referred to HR and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was on the
Okay.
consent agenda.
Right.
Okay.
Any
good
other
enough
questions?
then. Yep.
I have one. First of all, I think this is a good idea. Number two, when you went out there and realized that maybe we should be doing more auditing, did you find any issues at that time?
Yes.
Well, we found some issues, but they're not insurmountable, and collaborating together and using the expertise of the compliance office will definitely help Parks and Recreation.
Okay, but now we'll be able to stay on top of this and do everything timely and have a good cash management plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The parks really should be commended because they have a very comprehensive cash handling policy, cash and PCI policy that they've written specifically for their operations. And they update it every year. When we went out and did the audit, we found out that they were not following it in some cases, and in some cases it needs to be updated. So the idea is that we'll continue to work with them to improve it and improve their processes.
How often then will you audit a particular park? Make sure everything balances and the cash that's coming in is ending up where it's supposed to be?
Well, I guess it depends on what the scope of the audit is. The initial audits that we did were actually, I think, it was 2 summers ago, and it was near the end of the year that we went out and we went to 2 parks. This year, we've gone out to 2 parks, and the 2 parks where they started handling the grill rooms into doing the beverages and selling alcohol.
In concession.
In concession. So, so since that was a new operation, we thought that it was a high-risk area, so we went out and have looked at that, and we are not done doing the field work yet, and haven't generated a report.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
personally, I think it should be done more often than not.
Yeah. And all of the different sites as well. And now that we've taken on the grill rooms at 3 locations and the concessions at 3 locations, those are all other point of sale opportunities that need to be audited.
Do we have cameras in the, cash collection areas, that type of thing?
In most cases, I can't say 100%, but we have the majority of them are definitely covered.
Yeah, I think that's good too.
Yep.
Commissioner Spiz?
You mentioned that you did 2 audits last year. And if we bring on this part-time person, I believe you just mentioned there were 6 other locations. I think at the beginning you said there was 90?
There's 90 different sales instrument, point of sales. So like at a at a concession, like the wave pool, there can be 3 or 4 cash registers.
Okay.
Yeah,
How many locations total would be required to audit, not counting cash?
I want to say 9 or 10.
9 or 10 parks, right?
Yeah, that have active places like Rose Oaks and Highland Oaks.
Reason-
Everything's good in my district.
Yeah, okay.
The reason for my questions is really, is the part-time, knowing a little bit about auditing, is a part-time person enough to be able to hit all those locations on a regular basis versus more than doing once or twice a year? Because you probably want to do a little bit more than that. And if you're going to go outside of just the cash handling, which if I read this
Yeah.
correctly, you're intending to do, is it physically possible with only a part-time person? Is really my question.
So I think, well, the idea is that this is a pilot. I personally think that you could keep a full-time person busy doing audits at the parks. But what we plan to do is to go to the higher risk areas and audit them and then see what happens. Or,
So there's a high probability you'll be back in front of us sometime in the near future and make this a full-time position.
well, I don't know, it's
Right.
kind of up to the guy with the purse strings.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Wypert,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you very much. The last item then is communications, receive and file.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, supported by Commissioner Kokendorfer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same motion carried. Anything else today? The meeting adjourned at 2:01.